Hey, it's Chris Wagner. Welcome back to the Met 360 studio, where media, entertainment, and technology all come together. And I have David Denenberg here, who's the Senior Vice President for Global Media and Distribution and Business Affairs at a small entity called the NBA. David, thank you for coming on the show.
Thanks for having me.
Wow, there's great things happening. Got the playoffs going on right now. I'm a huge NBA fan, and the NBA business is definitely a global business. And I thought with the brief time that you have here with us, we could talk a little bit about how do you connect with the NBA fan on a lot of the new media through, through social, through mobile, things like that. Be a good start?
Sure, yeah. I mean, this year we introduced a new product called Mobile View. So for our League Pass product, which is for our core fans, it's basically all the games that aren't on national television, and actually internationally it's all the games. We introduced a new camera position in the arena to specifically optimize the games for the mobile phone. So literally you get a separate camera that's shooting it much tighter so that it looks better on the mobile phone.
That's a great idea. So you don't get kind of that pullback and you're looking at the arena on your small device?
Exactly. So it's really optimized and it looks great on the mobile phone, and we're doing that for every single game now. So
what drove that decision?
That's a great question. We experimented with it last year in a few games, and what we saw when we cut the highlights is that we were getting 2.5 times the engagement on those mobile view highlights than we were the regular highlights, and we said there must be something here, and we decided to expand it to do
regular
all the games.
Highlights, meaning on PC or on bigger screens?
Shot with the regular camera.
Oh, I see what you're saying.
Yeah.
Wow, that's pretty interesting.
Yeah.
And what's been the reaction, from the fans themselves? Have you seen more engagement?
Absolutely. That engagement has continued, and we're certainly going to continue that next year. We sort of did it as an experiment this year, but we definitely intend to continue it based on.
So how was that implementation operationally with all your workflows? I mean, it sounds simple, right?
It sounds simple. It really isn't. We had to put in a separate camera in every single arena at center court, which, as you can imagine, isn't easy. You already got, you got a national telecaster, you got 2 local telecasters, so it
sits at center court.
Correct.
On the court.
At the scorer's table.
Wow.
So it wasn't easy to find the real estate, but we thought this was an important initiative, and so we found the real estate, and it's been great.
So if I'm on a mobile device watching a live NBA game, does it know to give me that feed, or do I select it?
You get to select. It gives you a choice. We're not going to force people to take it, but what we found is that as people are engaging more and more on their mobile phones, it's a great option for them.
Yeah, I don't know of any other league that's doing something like that, so that's pretty interesting. NBA again, out
Exactly,
in front.
innovators.
Yeah, so maybe talk a little bit about social. What's happening?
Yeah, so I think we're up to 1.3 billion followers around the world. I mean, it's incredible. It's
1.3 billion.
Yeah, I mean, it's led by.
That's like 1 out of 7 people follow the NBA.
It's crazy. I mean, it's the NBA defined broadly. So our players, our executives, our coaches, our teams. I mean, our players are just so recognizable around the world. They've been able to build these followings, and it helps, other sports. You have masks on. Our guys are known. They're known around the world, and it's just they embrace it. They're Snapchatting. They're on Twitter. They're on Facebook. So it really helps stoke the interest.
Wow, that's phenomenal. So here in the United States, because I think fans often don't understand the complication in the distribution of content, right? Because you have a lot of partners. It could be a regional sports network. It could be Turner. And then when you start going outside of the U.S., are there other big guys out there like that?
Absolutely, and ever increasing. I mean, we have, this is the first year of our deal in China with Tencent, which is a huge digital company there. They're taking our League Pass product and a bunch of other content as well.
And League Pass, just for the viewers, would include all the live games, plus the TV channel.
Plus, it's different in certain countries, but it's all the live games, it's all the archive games, so you get every game, back a couple seasons. You get a new product we have called Rapid Replay, which is highlights during the game. So it's a phenomenal product, especially for the core fan.
Yeah, and Rapid Replay is, and also you have kind of a red zone-like product.
That's the Rapid Replay, yeah.
So that kind of gives you around the league all of the highlights going on, and they're fairly live?
So there's a company called WSC that is an Israeli company that cuts these highlights. It's basically automated, cutting these highlights of every player of every game. So it gives you instant highlights, and it's able to populate that product for us, and it's been great.
How does that, so for fantasy, that's got to be a great...
That's probably the next initiative, but right now it's not, you know, consumer facing in that way. It's populating this rapid replay product, but you could definitely envision some fantasy options down the pipe.
That's pretty cool. So who are some of your other big partners outside the U.S., you know, that have kind of lots of games, but on the broadcast side?
Yeah, so that, you know, there's Canal Plus is a big one.
Yeah.
You know, EcoNet, we have a new deal in Africa, so they're becoming a bigger partner.
Continental or?
Sub-Saharan Africa.
Okay.
So, you know, it's really been incredible, the growth. We have partners in Mexico, Brazil. We're very popular. Australia, we're still huge.
And you have a lot of players from a lot of these countries that drives a lot of activation in the countries they come from, right?
That's exactly right. So, you know, and that's the beauty of like this WSC product. You want the, you know, Pau Gasol highlights, you can, you know, click the button and you're going to get your fill of Pau Gasol highlights.
Yeah, and I would imagine that what you're talking about with kind of the mobile-only feed and the social feed, that you get that youth coming up also.
Exactly.
What's happening with the NBA in terms of connecting with the young fans?
Well, that's obviously a key priority for us. I mean, we're virtual reality is another one.
I want to talk about that.
Okay,
yeah.
so you know, we are big into VR. This year we're doing a game of the week, produced all in VR with a completely separate production, separate announce team, separate production, and that goes out to League Pass subscribers. So. We also created a documentary in League Pass that was available for the finals last year. So we're definitely embracing VR.
So the VR options is so I can watch an archive game, or is it a live game?
You can watch both. You can watch a live game usually on a Tuesday night. We're doing a game of the week, but you also can have available the archive games as well.
I got to check that out. I haven't even seen it yet. So that works with any of the different headsets?
Yeah, it's honestly incredible if you haven't seen it. It really, you know, so few fans will actually get around the world will get to an NBA game, much less a courtside seat in an NBA game. This gives you that courtside seat. It gives you that immersive experience where you can turn around, see, you know, everything that's going on in the arena and feel like you're there. I would definitely recommend checking it out.
Have you seen it? Have you gotten any kind of engagement data back from that yet? Or
yeah.
what the
You know, we've been very pleased with the amount of time people are spent viewing. You know, you've heard things about, well, I get headaches if I watch too long. The data about how long people have been viewing has been really good. And you know, it's experimental. We'll continue to, you know, experiment and see where the engagement goes.
And that's in the League Pass product, I can find.
Correct.
The U.S. product?
It's domestic and international.
Oh, that's pretty cool. I got to check that out. So what else can you tell me? What else is on the calendar, NBA-wise?
You know,
it's coming up.
Playoffs are here. We got some great playoff series going on right now. A bunch of Game 5s going on, and some great series. We have you know, our award show coming up that we talked about a little bit. That's going to be really exciting.
Well, mention that again. We have some people that weren't here for Mark's presentation.
Right. So we for the first time this year, we're going to announce all of the major NBA awards during one show. It'll be on TNT, and in the past, all the awards have been announced separately, usually at a game.
Right.
So we're creating an awards show that'll be available around the world. So
and you have some nice entertainment that's happening on that show.
Exactly.
Signed up Drake.
100%.
Got a big concert. It'll be in New York. We'll put it out on the, I think, Chelsea Pier or somewhere near there, right?
Yep. More announcements to come. So, but it's going to be a great event for us. You know, we're always looking for new platforms, not just, you know, to have content to distribute around the world. So this is going to be a great piece of content for us.
Right. What's the length? Is that just one night, right? Runs.
Correct.
One night show.
Correct.
And I can imagine a lot of the TNT guys will be out there moderating, which they do such a great job.
The TNT talent, which is great, which are also on NBA TV, do a great job there. But they'll be very involved in the awards show, so we're excited about it.
Cool. Well, thank you. Thank you for coming by the studio. NBA's been a great partner of ours, so we're very happy about the things we do together.
Excellent.
Thanks for being here.
Okay. Thank you.
All right, thank you. That's another episode of Met 360. Tune in for the next one soon. Thanks.
Broadcasters will continue to find opportunity in the choices we make. Choices that allow broadcasters to continue serving the American people.
and we'll see you at the 2017 NAB show.
Goodbye, everyone.
Yeah.
Hey guys, Nikki from NAB Show Live here with Michael Clegg of Morrow Data. How's it going, Michael?
Very good. Very excited to be here. I think it's a first time at NAB and it's a really great opportunity for us.
Yeah, well, and you just launched a month ago, you told me, right?
Yes.
So tell me a little bit and tell everyone a little bit about Morrow Data.
Yeah. So what we do, so in Morrow Data, we're trying to solve a different problem. We basically think that today everybody wants to move to cloud because files are getting bigger, the amount of files people need is getting bigger, so they want to store them in the cloud. The problem is also because they're getting bigger, uploading them and downloading them from the cloud is becoming really painful. Yeah. So a lot of people find that problematic. So with our solution, we have this device, we call it a cache drive, and what the cache drive does is it sits in your office and it makes it look as if the cloud is in your office. So when you're saving files or retrieving files, you're basically saving them to a file server the way you would do in a normal office. And what our device then does is in the background, it goes off and it puts that all in the cloud. But the really cool thing is if you have multiple offices and you have one of these in each office, all those offices look as if they're on exactly the same network. So now what basically happens with this device, all these distributed offices all see the same file system, everyone sees the whole file system, and they all work together. So we sort of captured it over here. You're basically saving your file in the drive's putting it in the cloud, and in the cloud you basically have full visibility. So no storage limitations anymore, the cloud will just keep growing. No frustrations about internet speeds because this guy hides the internet speed from you. You read and write to it at gigabit speed, so 100 times faster than the internet. And at the same time you can see all your files in any location. So no more VPNs, no more file transfers, all that just goes away. Doesn't matter where you are, you see all your files.
That's very cool. And so you said no more storage issues. So this is, it'll move it to the cloud and take it off the drive?
Yeah, so we have two of these. We have an entry-level model and a higher model. This will store a terabyte of data. And for most users, that's more than enough. And also what happens is most users are working on files for a while and then over time they don't need the files, but they would like access to the file at any time. So with our system, it always, if it gets full, it will take the oldest file or the least recently used file, swap it out and just put a new one in. But the file's always in the cloud. So anytime you can go look at the file system and just pull it down from the cloud again. You never lose your files and you always have access to them.
And it'll just pull it back down from the cloud when you need it.
Yeah. And the way the cloud works as well, it's very easy to have a lot of archiving in the cloud. So basically what happens when you're saving your data in the cloud, data recovery, as I said, old files, because now you don't have to save them on tape, you can just leave them there all the time. Right. So you'll always have those records.
And what does something like this cost?
So the entry-level device is $499. The higher-level device, which is a solid-state drive and a higher performance processor, is $899. So this one we say is sort of good to 20 to 50 devices, and then the bigger one will take you up to 100, so more users.
Great. Thank you so much for speaking with us, Michael. Give us a website that everyone can reach out.
Yes, so www.morrowdata.com.
You heard it. Visit www.morrowdata.com. This is Nikki with NAB Show Live.
Hey, this is Rob Rush from 94.3 The Shark here on Long Island, and you are watching NAB Show Live, produced by Broadcast Beat.
Live from Las Vegas, this is NAB Show Live, produced by Broadcast Beat.
Good afternoon. Welcome back to NAB Show Live. We are here in the glorious Met Effects 360 studio in the lobby, in the wonderful lobby of Central Hall, Grand Lobby. I have to say, this has been a jam-packed and fun-filled 2 days so far. I am jumping in as a substitute this afternoon, so I have a couple of guests with me, and we're going to have a good time. I'm glad you're able to join us. So first we have Gavin Miller, who is head of Adobe Research. Thank you very much. And Jason George from Telescope. My joke is Jason and I have known each other for a number of years, but I have no idea what the heck he does in the world. I'm just kidding. I just know he has a very engaging accent, and that's all well and good. So we actually have two different ends of the spectrum here. We have technology and your expertise, which is storytelling in the machine age and how this is changing storytelling. Yep. I happen to be a storyteller. I happen to be a producer. We happen to be engaged with Adobe on a daily basis already. Yep. So it would be nice to know what's in the pipeline because our heads are to the ground. And
So, yep.
one sec. And Telescope is a video engagement or making video more engaging for users through live.
I mean, we're a technology business really that helps storytellers tell their stories on whatever platform they want to tell them on.
So the stories that we're telling, are they interactive on your platform? Is it interactive video? Or?
I mean, our core focus, we've been around 15 years in the US, and our focus has been making the broadcasting cable experience more engaging. And as eyeballs, like we all know, are migrating towards digital and social platforms, now a lot of it is how do we create engaging stories and kind of interactive experiences on those platforms.
So before we get to like what is changing and what the future is, let's talk a little bit about the present. So I am a storyteller, I'm a creator, I actually have something, I may be on YouTube, I may be on cable, I may be on Vimeo.
Yep.
I want data, I want to know who's watching, I want to be able to reach out to them, I want to interact with them, I might even want to know where they're looking, if they're on a mobile phone or whatnot. What does Telescope do for me as a storyteller to enable that experience?
I think one thing, we've just launched a product about a year ago called Live Studio. It's been focused on principally Facebook Live video, and it's really a studio in your pocket. So I think in terms of being a storyteller, whereas before you had to have access to a lot of very expensive equipment or studio time, and obviously a limited amount of bandwidth through broadcasting cable networks, now you can create content so much more easily. You can drive that distribution through platforms like Facebook and YouTube and Periscope, and you can also directly retarget your audience through some of those tools. So in terms of understanding exactly in real time how people are interacting with your content, what they're saying, how they're reacting, and then also after the kind of broadcast, analyzing that information and potentially retargeting those people with a message or a tune-in reminder about something else you're doing. That's really the power of what some of the things we're doing through social and OTT platforms.
So I want to go back to production for a minute. Is it like a production truck in my pocket?
Exactly. Small encoder, a professional camera, or if you want a mobile phone, and you can be producing and broadcasting live.
And am I able, through the software and the app, to change my shots, change my angles?
You can switch camera angles, you can add graphics, you can add motion graphics, all the kind of stuff you'd want to do in a normal broadcast environment. And with the power of social media in those platforms as well, in terms of driving discovery, driving awareness. The more reactions, the more shares I get, the more that's going to raise itself in the algorithms of people like Facebook.
And also going to provide data for advertising and ad sales and partners.
And you can monetize. So you can monetize through branded content tools, obviously graphics. As I said, you can retarget people after the broadcast on behalf of your sponsors. So, it's in terms of the present, it's changing pretty fast, and those are some of the things that I think are changing.
So every time we're going to talk about the future in a second, but every time you have to keep evolving to catch up with not only where people are viewing, how people are viewing, bandwidth speeds, everything else that's there, and being able to come up with a CPM in order to make this content even more valuable. So if I am watching now, what is the interaction from the audience that you enable as well?
Look, the thing I really like about some of these platforms is that if you think about our traditional business on some of those big shows that we've done for years, like The Voice and American Idol, we were trying to drive some sort of second screen experience. We were trying to get people off broadcast into
and that's when I first met you.
Into a second device and then back again. And actually that process is laborious and costly and inflexible. Now you have, now you have kind of organic engagement on these platforms. Like people are watching video, they're commenting, they're reacting to that video, and I can actually incorporate that directly into the broadcast, working with the producers and the host, feature some of that content on air in real time.
So that's where the engagement comes in. It's real-time engagement.
Absolutely, and it's in it's one screen, I suppose, is the key thing. I'm watching, and it's a very organic experience for me as a user. And I think we'll talk about the future more, but clearly it's going to open up new possibilities for how new content formats and things like that. So
great, and also the ability of users to generate their content and for you to integrate that content with the content that's already running.
That's exactly right.
So it's a two-way. It sets up a two-way content stream.
So I could be, I could be taking part and video calling into a stream, for instance, or I could be live reporting or citizen journalism live from the scene of some sort of incident. So I think it opens up amazing possibilities in terms of it's breaking down the wall, as we know, between the users and the viewers and the kind of creators and distributors.
Okay, great. Speaking of amazing possibilities.
Yep.
So you are in the amazing possibilities business, actually.
Yes.
Correct?
Yep.
And I have to say, Adobe, I have the whole suite. I subscribe to the suite. It is on my desktop all the time. It is I have to say, it's like integrated into my creative life, which I guess is what it's meant to be. It seems to respond. You know, it's funny, Gavin. You wish for something in Adobe, and it kind of shows up. And that's even before I, you know,
that's because we listen to our customers and try to figure out which things to do. So.
It's amazing. It really is amazing, and it's extremely reliable. And now you also are, as a VR producer, the ability to integrate Metal and other tools, and you've come up with your own set of tools as well. So this is all. It's almost like you're tracking the industry, and you're keeping like 3 steps ahead of us at least.
So the way we do that is we have a large research lab that has a vibrant set of research projects, many of which end up feeding into shipping products. So we have to be 2 or 3 years ahead of where the products are today so that we have things ready for that next version or the next release.
Even though you're head of Adobe Research, you're really the visionary. You're really kind of laying out what the future could be, because your chat today was storytelling in the age of machines. And of course, I find that, as a storyteller, intriguing and frightening at the same time.
A lot of people do. So one of the questions that I get asked a lot and which I address today is AI going to take my job, or is it going to help me do my job? And so we think of it as what we call the electrification.
AI meaning artificial intelligence for laymen.
And clever computer algorithms based on machine learning, the kind of stuff you hear about in the news all the time. So we think of it as the electrification of thought, which means 2 things. On the one hand, low-level boring tasks, which today are very tedious, are getting to be done much more automatically. But at the same time, we're trying to get that discussion from I have an idea to I have a visual that represents that with really high quality to a matter of seconds rather than minutes. So one example I showed today was a single-click sky replace, where the algorithm works out where the sky is, other skies that might fit that shape. It recolors the foreground to match the sky, so if you put in a sunset, you get the sunset glow on the foreground.
You get the lighting.
Lighting on the foreground object and so on. And this lets you very rapidly explore a design space that would otherwise take ages.
And you could actually
say, could we do this, and have to go away and come back, whereas now you can see it like this.
And I can use that for previs as well.
Exactly, it's for previs, and you might do it as a reference shot for then the final production. So it doesn't take away that final tweaking and careful control, but it gets you to explore an idea space much more quickly. So that's one type of thing we're accelerating with AI or computer vision. Another thing is just visual search. So you might have an idea for a scene, but you're sort of not quite sure. You sort of know roughly where you want the person and the props to be, but you don't really have a strong visual sense of the style. So we have this new thing called Concept Canvas in research, where you can lay out blocks of like, this is a person, this is an umbrella, this is an area of water, and then it indexes millions of images and finds the closest one with just that layout.
So those are Adobe's, that's the library of images
that's
that we're now accessing.
Adobe stock is in.
Oh my God, that is like freaking brilliant. So, excuse my language.
And then of course, if it's the wrong color or something, you can then tweak it using Photoshop. But it's a way of getting sort of rough storyboards using photographic quality, and then you can really
that is extremely helpful.
Yeah.
We talked a little bit in preparation about motion parallax.
Right. So
and I think we have an asset for that.
Yeah.
Yes.
So another thing that we're trying to do is think about the actual video format itself. So what's happening here is it's a 360 video that's being recorded, and then we're using computer vision to figure out the points in the 3D scene which stay the same as the camera moves. And then once you've reconstructed this point cloud just from a conventional 360 camera, you can then do real-time playback, but you take where the user's head is into account. So as you move closer to things, the viewpoint changes, and you get much more of a sense of being there than if you're in a classic 360 video stream.
Okay, so like I'm Gavin, you are my new best friend.
Okay.
You know, this whole thing we're in VR now, we're talking about, everybody's talking about 6DoF, which is 6 degrees of freedom. So up, down, left, right, I forget.
And
roll,
you can also use it to
roll.
You can use it to stabilize video. So the top shot is sort of wobbly because it's on a boat, and the bottom one is stabilized by the algorithm.
Which is a huge,
both for motion sickness and comfort.
It is hugely forward. Well,
then here we're moving the camera path, so we're fixing the camera but still seeing the action in the scene on the right, whereas the left was the original shot. So it means that if you say your cameraman was a bit too aggressive in moving the camera and people are getting nauseous with it, you can actually redo that in post and smooth out the motion and have it much more comfortable for people.
This is like again, anticipating, you know, because stable images, I mean, we did some camera tests last night, and we looked at the floor of this facility. Very low light, there's a lot of correction that we know is going to be made, but the floor was corrugated. And so even if we lay down something on top of that floor, very specific need.
Very hard to have it completely smooth.
Stability is still going to be an issue. And plus, I don't have to tell you that with some, and I won't mention any names, but with some of these dollies that you move, it could knock your camera out of focus.
Right.
So the ability to kind of hedge against that, I mean, that's that.
And change your mind in post so you don't have to reshoot.
Well, and it changes. I mean, there's a lot of stuff you say, you know, so we do stuff in camera. We come there. Not every VR camera is perfect. There are errors that have to be corrected everywhere. You are compensating for the errors that any of these cameras could make. Each camera does something special. Some cameras do something better than others, but you still have error correction.
And even with an action shot, you really can't predict where the interesting thing is going to happen. So you want to stabilize it in post, and then you can rotate in the edit suite to have the stuff.
But you have made it possible, some stuff that we couldn't really fix in post, that we could only reshoot. You're making it possible. So this is like a cost savings. This is like, you know, if I wasn't sitting here, I'd get down and say,
well, it's just in research, so it's a little early to do that.
Okay, so even though it's a little early, the fact that we know this is happening,
and it's possible,
this is like in the pipeline, it's possible. It brings great relief to producers, because you're looking and you're going to go, okay, great, we can work with this. It's going to bring the budget down. We can create video that, and I'm not sure what you guys are doing in 360, but I'll ask in a minute. It creates this opportunity to actually cut the timeline down, cut the budget down, produce things more quickly, and make them more engaging, which is great.
Absolutely. And you could even tailor the consumption experience to different tastes. So if somebody liked more action and more motion, you could have one path through the data, and if somebody else wanted it to be less nausea-inducing because they were very sensitive to it, as a viewer, you could adjust.
The viewer can make the
viewer can make that choice, just like the viewer's moving their head. So
I don't know how much power I want to give them to do that. But
well, it's an opportunity. So you can either do it in post, or you could possibly do it live in consumption.
What is I say our because I'm in this with you now.
Yep.
What is our timeline?
Well, we can't really promise things ahead of time, otherwise they wouldn't let me out.
Okay, but I mean, the fact that you're demonstrating this now
shows that we have a technical proof of concept. So to make it really real, we'd have to try it on a wide variety of content to make sure it doesn't fail, and then maybe add some tools for when it's not quite perfect to help fix it up in post.
So I know this may sound completely self-serving, but are you working with storytellers who are creating cinematic narrative to collaborate with us, to know what we want to do, what our needs are?
Well, we like to work with some flagship customers, but we're always looking for more, if that's the question you're asking.
That's good. I have to tell you, just in a self-interest as a producer, you know, we pushed the drone camera to 120 frames per second. We did the first slow motion in VR. We actually built a rig that allowed us to get closer than 3 feet for intimacy. We try a lot of stuff. We're looking at infrared
Well, it's
VR.
only by working with customers that we can really know what to focus on, because there are so many possibilities in research.
You can see you planted the seeds. You can see actually from a creative's perspective how exciting it makes it. So when the product comes out and we go into 360 video, we're moving into a world. I mean, if you listen to Facebook, we are going to live in that 360 world. So are your tools for engagement, so what Adobe is beginning to enable, which will be, I want to say, a shorter timeline and hopefully a shorter workflow and pipeline, goes right into engagement. How are your tools going to play with what comes out of the pipeline?
I mean, partly some of our distribution is based on what the different platforms like Facebook make available in their API. But obviously, I mean, I was at F8 last week. You know, Mark Zuckerberg spoke a lot about their focus on AR, you know, and artificial intelligence powering that AR. And as soon as those pieces are available in the APIs, then we'll integrate those, because clearly it's a much richer experience. Like as a viewer, you know, being able to engage in that way much more deeply with the content is kind of central to it. So. Yeah, absolutely. We're doing some things around 360, and we plan to kind of integrate, you know, those types of capabilities once they're available.
It's again exciting and scary.
I think at the high end we're really making the iteration loop much shorter, so you can explore designs much faster. For the next level of production, we're trying to democratize that really high-end look and style so that people can get to a really professional look with less effort and less investment because the tools are smarter.
That is what you guys are about.
It is, absolutely.
I mean, and the fact that,
and so the high end keeps going up, and then the next tier becomes mainstream, and instead of being in a $200 million movie, it's something that you can see on television commonly.
I think that's
and then
key.
eventually in user-generated content.
That's key. I think
it's a trickle-down idea.
The cost is still, in terms of the kind of the equipment and everything else, is still kind of getting there, but it's you can see.
But as a storyteller, you want those high production values. You want to create a great experience. Even right now, the television networks that are getting in, brands that are getting in, they're not just going to settle for 360. We want stereoscopic. We want content that has value long beyond when it's made, because we're making library content as well. We've talked. That point has come up in every single panel today. There is an expression here that I got to know what it's about.
Yeah.
I guess I could figure it out, but neural face editing.
Okay, so in traditional image editing tools, the software didn't know the object that it was editing. It was dragging pixels around, or you were brushing paint onto a virtual canvas. But in the new world, the algorithms actually recognize the objects that they're looking at, especially faces or landscapes or skies, and you then might do different things with the tool based on whether it's on a cheek, whether it's near an eye, so that you can either smooth things appropriately based on the region of the face, or if you make an adjustment or a warp to the face, it looks physically natural in 3D rather than like a 2D distortion.
So even if you change the light source, it responds.
Right. So it can, for instance, fit a 3D model to the face and then figure out what the lighting is. So you could either change the lighting or add another object and use the face as a light probe so that the other object fits the lighting.
Okay. So where are you guys on volumetric scanning?
That's something that we're looking at, but we haven't gone as deeply as some other places so far. It's very intriguing. It's pretty heavy in terms of the equipment you need to capture it.
Yes.
But I mean, we're sort of intrigued by the idea that it might be a great source of rich training data for intelligent algorithms. So eventually you don't need as many cameras or as much equipment, and you'll get a lot of the benefit having used that as sort of scaffolding to build more automatic things based on 1 or 2 cameras rather than dozens. Although, we're building exotic equipment in the lab, but the practical stuff will be combinations of intelligence and these rich camera systems working together.
Now, for me, this has been like incredibly exciting. I'm like, oh my God, that solves that problem. That solves that. My head is going a mile a minute. Did Adobe make any big announcements at the show? Because I have been like completely consumed and not on the floor.
Well, we were talking about motion templates, which was a way of integrating Premiere and After Effects together in interesting workflow ways, but we weren't making big announcements around.
The thing about workflow and there's, at least in VR and 360, it's constantly adjusting. Things are turning and they're becoming best practices. They're not becoming best practices. Different production houses, different post-production houses. We're all trying to figure it out and turn a hack into best practices. And
so things that were previously possible are becoming much more spontaneous and easier to codify.
Well, this is, I got to tell you, so I don't know who I have to talk to angle an invitation to the lab. Gavin, would that be you?
That would be me, yes.
Because it's very exciting, and it's very, I want to say we're thinking through these problems all the time. How do you stabilize a 360 camera on the drone and get what you want? How do you work on these surfaces? How do you relight a situation that didn't lighting in VR? How do you make this very exciting? Did you guys make any sort of announcements? I'm sorry if I'm putting you on the spot.
No,
I'm just,
Yeah, we announced some advances to our live studio platform around, more cloud-based kind of architecture, and also, democratizing that process further with things like mobile streaming kind of connectivity. So a bunch of stuff like that. Really, that live studio focus for us is pretty big around video, and just kind of talking about the future. It's kind of exciting hearing about some of these things, getting out of our day to day. But I always think about those things like, hey, I want to produce. I've had so many game show producers say to me, hey, how can we do an interactive game show? And you're like, well, you kind of can't really at the moment. But some of these things where actually the home audience could be virtually in the studio playing themselves, and as well as playing along from home. They're the sorts of things in real time that I kind of get. I think you're going to see whole new forms of content that we're still trying to fit it into a kind of an existing paradigm where you're going to get whole new kind of forms of content invented, around some of the, and it's moving so quickly. It's it's hard to.
Well,
hard to keep pace.
There's this interesting meld, and I'm sure you've experienced this. There's this interesting meld that's happening as 360 and VR, which is where I live.
Yep.
Cinematic techniques are now, and you're enabling this too, cinematic techniques are now coming into virtual reality. Before you believed you couldn't move the camera, you're helping us solve that problem. And we used bokeh. We actually blurred the periphery to draw the audience's attention to what we wanted them to see. You've got heat mapping going on right now that's actually providing data of where the audience is looking.
Yep.
So the idea that this stuff could be democratized and in the hands of people who are creative, or it feels like YouTube all over again, but at a different level.
Well, look at how the advances in things like the 360 cameras, how quickly that's happened. That now there's just extensions you can put on your phone, that are very affordable. It's coming.
And I got to tell you, just as a professional on a specific project that we worked on, it was a press situation, so we were stuck way in the back. Well, you can't zoom with a 360 camera, and I'm not giving anything away here. So we sent one camera guy into the restroom to get rid of his press credentials, and he came out with a Gear VR and went into the crowd, and that's some of the best footage that we got out of a consumer camera. And plus being able to integrate that footage and integrate from, I'm thinking, Gavin, you sparked, you've lit up my mind, because I'm thinking, we're using this camera here, we're using this camera here. They're totally different. We have to integrate both stereoscopic images, we have to match them, we have to stabilize them, we have to colorize them, and we may have to correct stuff that has happened in camera that we didn't even expect, like an issue that showed up later. And I think part of what I'm like, okay, when can I take Gavin to lunch?
Right.
So, no offense, Jason, I had lunch with you.
Can I come too?
So, yes, you can come too.
Absolutely.
But, the idea that now you have these fixes. So a lot of times you'll use a camera, the camera company will not tell you what issues that camera has, so you can't go back and shoot something that you didn't know you were going to have an issue with, and they haven't told you, so in post you're going to spend more time fixing that issue, even if they tell you later, oh, we have the issue and here's the fix. So now what you're showing today and what you're talking about the future,
well, it will help.
Helps correct all that. While their technology, by the way, continues to advance and continue to move forward, and every time it moves forward, it's great. It's a quantum leap, but it creates a whole new set of issues.
It does, yeah.
So that's great. What do you, Gavin, want people to know, storytellers to know, and consumers who will be on the other end, about how Adobe has their back?
Well, as I said, I think we don't want to replace them. We want to sort of accelerate them so they can maybe explore many more design choices for both story and the look of particular scenes. That we're going to try to, rather than think of it as the machine against the creative, think of it as harvesting the wisdom of many creatives so that they can help each other, because the tool becomes an expression of their talent that you've distilled into an algorithm which then helps the designer.
And it incorporates the learning of the community, which is like fabulous.
So just like, in the old days, the community would learn something and the programmers would have to type in code to represent that. And now it can be learned directly from the data of how the community is using things or designing things.
Brilliant. Yeah. Jason, what do you want us to know about where Telescope is headed?
Look, I think to that point, that's the focus on the content creation side here. Really, our focus is on disrupting the distribution side. That, I think the way we look at it is there's never been a better time to be a content creator. It's a little bit more difficult if you're in the traditional distribution kind of world. But the ability to actually get out as a content creator, without spending a huge amount of money and actually distribute your content and build a following directly is really kind of what we're about.
Yeah, it actually is a real, distribution is such a challenge in VR right now. So, wow, Jason George, Gavin Miller, and this half hour turned out to be a lot more exciting than I anticipated.
Okay.
So I'm so grateful that I had the opportunity to sit at the anchor desk for this half hour. Thank you very much for being here today and for sharing your knowledge. You're watching NAB Show Live, and we are so glad you're here. If you haven't been at the NAB show and you can't get down here, you've got us right here for you at NAB Show Live, and we're trying to bring you all the latest developments that are happening on the floor and bring you the experts here. Thanks for joining us.
Hey guys, Nikki from NAB Show Live, and I'm here with Evan Bronke. He's a senior product manager of AMD. How's it going, Evan?
Fantastic. Great start to the show so far.
Yeah, it's exciting. I'm excited.
Yeah, very, very exciting. Lots of great things to show today from our Radeon Pro Graphics product family. Lots of partners here and tons of exciting things.
Great. Very exciting. I want to talk about this next to us. But first, tell me a little bit about AMD.
So, well, AMD has been one of the leading graphics providers for a number of years. A lot of exciting things have happened in the last year. We rebranded our entire professional product line last year at SIGGRAPH with Radeon Pro Graphics, introduced a number of fantastic products from our WX series product lines featuring the latest architectures and the latest graphics process nodes. And here we are today, ready to start talking about our latest and greatest products that we just launched this morning.
I know, I heard. So now that you're allowed to talk about it, tell me a little bit about it.
Yeah, so what we have today is the Radeon Pro Duo. What it is essentially is the latest and greatest iteration of essentially our WX 7100. And what we've done is we've shoehorned in a single graphics card that fits in pretty much any standard OEM PC, two highly powerful GPUs. And what it does is it allows you to do fantastic things like what you see behind us right now is simultaneous workloads like real-time 360-degree video stitching. Plus, on the other GPU, do amazing things like this 360 display with the warping, and then send that content over to our other display over here where you can actually do a VR head mount display. So amazing things that you can do with the power of these GPUs these days.
So it's stitching, warping, and sending it to the VR.
Well, yeah, it's stitching and warping, and then the output of the stitching is actually being sent to another PC behind us that has another GPU in it that's doing the VR head mount display.
So cool. Thank you so much for speaking with us. I want to play with this stuff, so can we do that?
Absolutely, yeah. Jump on in.
All right. Thank you, Evan. This is Nikki with NAB Show Live.
Hello and welcome to NAB Show Live. I'm your host, Ryan Salazar, and we have a very special guest today. We're talking about cyclorama walls, cyc walls. So, Todd Dean, how you doing, sir? Nice to chat with you. So, a lot of photographers, videographers, educational institutions, they want to shoot in front of a wall. So a black wall, a white wall, gray wall, whatever, for photography or video. And I hear it's been used in animation as well, too. So talk about what a cyclorama wall is.
Well, a cyclorama wall is basically you curve every 90-degree corner in a room, or as much as you want to shoot in front of, so that there's no beginning of the floor and start of the wall. It's like one big curved situation. So in a cyclorama or a cyc wall, it's kind of like infinity.
Okay, so how do you build something like that?
Well, they used to build it by hand, and they would cut these ribs out of plywood, and they would try to bend boards, and the radiuses were always really large because that was the easiest way to bend that board. Today, there's many companies like mine that create prefab situations that you buy and you put into that room.
When you build a cyc wall, do you really need a cyc? I guess that's the radius. Could you just shoot in front of a white wall, for example?
Sure, they could shoot against the wall, but basically what happens is if you shoot below the knee, you'll see the corner of the room, or if you shoot a big wide shot, you would see the vertical corner of the room. And so you either want a one-wall cyc where you're just going to curve out the floor, or a two-wall cyc where you curve out the floor and the vertical corner, and then there's a cornerstone in the middle that connects all those units together.
Okay, so to build something like this, does it take a long time? Is it very difficult?
To build the old-fashioned way, yes, and they're hollow and they're very easy to damage, whereas products like I sell are solid polystyrene products, and you just glue them in instantly, and then you spackle the seams, and you can have a cyc in a day or so.
Okay, so you're saying you don't have to make the physical, I guess I call it the arch, I guess, right?
It's the radius, and there are several sizes of radiuses. We actually sell those 2-foot radiuses the most often now. Back long ago, when you actually had to build it, you built these large radiuses. It took up a lot of floor space, so you don't have to do that now.
What kind of supplies does that take, I guess?
Well, basically, we sell you the piece that you're going to glue in. You're just going to go out and buy the glue and the spackle. A lot of times people just get a drywall person to come do their spackling because it's really quick and easy. But that's really it.
All right, excellent. Again, Todd Dean with Affordable Cyc Wall Systems. Do you have a website we can share?
Yes, it's affordablecycwall.com. and basically just look me up, give me a call, and we can talk.
All right, again, Todd Dean, Affordable Cyc Wall Systems. We'll be back in just a few minutes.
Hey, this is Rob Rush from 94.3 The Shark here on Long Island, and you are watching NAB Show Live, produced by Broadcast Beat.
Live from Las Vegas, this is NAB Show Live.
Hi, it's Jeanette DePatty here at the MedEffect 360 Theater with NAB Show Live. I'm so excited to be wrapping up the day with you today. We are going to be talking about what is trending at NAB 2017 and where to go from here. I have two very special guests with me today. I have Colin Cupp, who is the Industry Marketing Manager of Film and Television for Autodesk. And I have Luria Petrucci from Live Streaming Pros. Let's start by just telling us a little bit about what each of you do. Go ahead, Colin.
So I look after industry marketing for film and TV at Autodesk, and that for me means looking after marketing for products like Maya, Arnold, 3ds Max, and as they apply in the film TV world.
Great. And how about you, Luria?
So at Live Streaming Pros, we help entrepreneurs create more professional live streams and stand out from the crowd.
That sounds really exciting. I mean, I think that'll bring us right into one of our trends, right? Live is a big deal. Can you talk about how important live is in this year 2017?
Well, live is everywhere. I mean, you know, it's interesting because we're here at NAB, right? And live video is not new, but it's super exciting right now. It's trending right now. And, you know, we can learn a lot from the years of live streaming that has been around.
The painful years, right, of live streaming.
Exactly. But, you know, it's so important now because people expect more interactivity. People want to know and engage with the hosts or the people behind a company. So, you know, people like Autodesk, right? I mean, they want to engage with you guys, and they want to hear from the real humans behind companies. So it's really important to take advantage of it.
Okay, so we have a star here, Colin Cupp. Luria, give him some advice for making stellar live streams for Autodesk.
Okay, so I'm sure you got it covered. But, you know, we actually talk about the 4 levels of live streaming.
Okay.
So the 4 levels of live video are, first of all, the level 1 is selfie stream. So it's just your phone, what it sounds like, you know, you've got the selfie stream going on.
Right.
It's free, it's easy, you go to Facebook Live, Periscope, YouTube Live. Level 2 is your phone plus some gear, using microphones, you know, stepping it up a notch, right?
And a friend to schlep all that around, right?
Well, no, it can be super simple. You can still hold it with your phone, or you can attach it to a tripod. It doesn't have to be big and bulky. Iographer, even, you know, Beast Grip, things that are small.
Oh, and some of the new LED light rings are so sweet.
Totally, yes.
Yeah.
So then level 3 would be going live from a computer using a software like Wirecast. So you really step it up a notch. You start to look like TV at that point with lower thirds, with multiple camera angles possibly, you know, some professional graphics. The level 4 is doing what we do, TV quality live streaming, doing what we're doing here, right? And really using a dedicated system and bringing the TV world to the online world.
I saw a product, so there's the Facebook Pavilion this year. They have a whole pavilion dedicated to live video. And I saw a product from Switcher Studio that allows you to connect 4 iPhones together and live switch from your iPhone. You don't need any hardware, that's it. You just do it all via Wi-Fi. It's pretty cool. Like, I was lusting after it, frankly. I was like, I really want this.
You know, it's interesting. Nick from Switcher Studio has been trying to, you know, has been doing this for a long time, and he's even got, I'm going to get it wrong, the NBA, the NCAA, somebody, NFL, I don't know who, but one of the who? The UFC, one of the letters.
We're sports challenged here. Can you help her?
Yeah, exactly. The UFC is using Switcher Studio to do really professional recording and maybe in the future live as well.
So talk to me a little bit. I'm guessing that Autodesk has some really great announcements that line up with trends in collaboration and cloud computing. And tell us what you've got that's brand new.
We do. One of our cloud products is Shotgun. And,
Shotgun? Wow,
Shotgun.
It sounds kind of scary.
Shotgun software. It's not dangerous, I promise. What that does, it's a production tool. It's a project management tool for production. And so it allows our customers to collaborate remotely, to kind of review and annotate media files and things like that.
Oh, that is so awesome.
Yeah.
Can you like type things in on the fly? Because as a producer, that was always something that drove me crazy.
You can.
Are we in live? Are we in Litzy? Are we in running time? And I'm trying to write time codes and watch. So that sounds fabulous.
You can just scrub through and find the point, make a note, scrub through, make another note, and then it all gets recorded, sent back to the artist, and they can make the changes, and the feedback loop continues.
And that all runs in the cloud?
All runs in the cloud.
And is that a SaaS model? That's one of my favorite words.
And you say it so well.
It is a SaaS solution. Yeah, so it is something that just completely runs in the cloud. Yeah.
Very cool. So what else have you announced here at the show?
So we have a lot of product announcements happening. We have a new version of Flame out, which is creative finishing tool and creative finishing tool. We've got updates for Maya, right? High-end sort of 3D DCC application. 3ds Max new version out. 3ds Max 2018. We've got the Arnold renderer. We have a new version out from that. We acquired the Arnold renderer last year. We announced that at NAB last year. So we have a new version of that out as well.
So is that a plugin or?
No, so it's a renderer. So it's something that DCC tools need to sort of finish out and make those pretty pictures that you see. Yeah.
Very cool.
Yeah.
So there's a couple other trends that I've seen on the show floor, and I was wondering if you guys had any thoughts about AR and VR. I mean, that's obviously immersive is really hot right now, and the moving ahead, AR is moving ahead, and VR is still exploding. So do you guys have any thoughts about that?
So from our perspective, we actually see a lot of our customers kind of diving into AR and VR. And what we've seen is that the nature of their work, what they do in VFX, in particular, lends itself really well to VR content creation because they're already using 3D tools to make things.
Okay.
So to take that step, it's kind of like, it's similar to kind of what stereoscopic was in terms of the technical knowledge. Like they already have a lot of the knowledge that you need.
About light sources and planes and
kind
all
of making things in the 3D space.
Uh-huh.
And then they just need to take that next step then and figure out how to do storytelling in a VR environment, which is a challenge. It's something that everyone's kind of trying to figure out right now, but they're really well positioned.
But I'm guessing that your tools are used in at least some part of the AR, VR development process, right?
Yeah, for sure. So Maya and 3ds Max are key in AR, VR. Shotgun has been used by a few of our customers as well, just from a production perspective. One of our customers, The Molecule in New York, they have offices in LA and New York, and they create content on both coasts, and they use Shotgun to kind of pass things back and forth. But they actually just created something called Invisible, which is the first VR episodic.
Oh, cool.
It's really cool, and it was directed by, I can't remember the guy's name, but he directed the first Bourne Identity, the first Jason Bourne movie, and he directed this sort of little mini-series. And it's, they've had some success with it. So we're seeing a lot of customers doing that kind of thing, just trying to pioneer how to go out and create VR content.
It's always really. Oh, go ahead.
No, I was just going to say that's really cool to see, people from Bourne Identity, right, and using that kind of VR experiences. I think it's really interesting that you said the storytelling aspect is what people are still trying to figure out, and I think from a whole perspective, everything I see is a lot of still trying to figure it out. Everybody's kind of just like, oh, we can do it, cool, right? And throwing it out there. So with people like that, leaders in the space, more and more of the independent producers will start to figure out, oh, okay, well, I can do this, I can do that. This may not be. I think we really have to figure out what the right applications are for that. Just because we can do it doesn't mean we should do it in all spaces.
Sure. No, that makes a lot of sense. So another trend that I wanted to talk about is the idea of of monetization, right? And that it used to really be about eyeballs and rumps and seats, right? But now it's really more about the data that you can collect about these people and how well you can manage the marketing and the curatorship of this content, right? I mean, do you guys have any comments about that?
Yeah, I see this constantly. This is a big struggle in especially the live streaming space. You know, how do we monetize what we're doing? Yes, we're doing it. It's great. How do we get something out of it? And you're right. You know, you've got to control that flow. So when you get them in as a viewer, you've got to be on top of making sure that you're leading them to something in order to monetize maybe even later, either right on as you're doing the live stream or at a later date. Get them involved in your community, get them to know, like, and trust you, and then bring them into that monetization process. I like to think of it as a process, as a long-term solution, but you know, there are other solutions out there to help with that.
I know a lot of people in the live stream community who agree that it's a long-term solution.
Yeah, you know, we want everything quick, right? And we live in that kind of society, and you cannot approach live video or AR or 360 or anything that you're doing, even anything in business, really, right? As a short-term, give it to me now, especially if you're trying to build a long-term business.
And I think the best example of that from our perspective is we're seeing a really big increase in sort of streamed content, right? So Netflix, Amazon, and you're kind of seeing a decline in sort of theater attendance, right? So for the VFX world, online streaming has been a boon to a lot of our customers and the industry at large. And the interesting thing about that is that online streaming, people that like Netflix and Amazon, they're collecting a lot of data, right, about viewers, and that's then influencing what they make next. And so they have way more data than the theaters do, right, and then the traditional larger studios do, so they're disrupting quite a bit on that front.
Well, I mean, it's been a huge year for OTT, right? I mean, last year, the top viewed show was on Netflix, and 3 of the 4 top viewed shows were on Netflix. So, I mean, it's really kind of a behemoth, and it seems to be evidence that that big data train has left the station, right? That it's really impacting growth for these companies.
It's driving up production values, right? You're seeing the quality of premium TV approaching that of what you see in the theater in terms of the CG and the quality of the filming and all the resources they put into it. So it's really growing. It's good.
Very cool.
Yeah.
So one of the things that I like to talk about is big cameras and teeny weeny cameras, right? Because it always goes one end to the other. It's always the extremes. So have you guys seen any super cool, great big wide field cameras or any teeny weeny cameras that you thought were neat?
Well, I haven't been on the show floor because I've been doing interviews just like this at the live stream booth. But speaking of tiny cameras, so I can't speak to the big cameras because I haven't had the chance to roam. But the tiny cameras, so Livestream has a Mevo camera, which is a tiny little camera. It literally will fit in a pocket, and it allows you to have more professional live streams because you can create multiple camera angles from that single camera. It's a 4K sensor, records in 4K, they just announced that here, and then also streams in 1080. So, you know, from a tiny perspective, it's interesting because we are using like 9 different Mevo cameras in our booth, and we are piping those into the Livestream HD 550 with the Livestream Studio software, and we're doing a whole lot TV quality production, right? So
I know.
Using tiny cameras.
Although I'm a little frightened because you know when you go to the restaurants now, it's already terrible that people are taking pictures of their food. I'm just imagining this Mevo camera down on your beautiful plate of food at Vegas, and you're like, okay, close up on the parsley, and like your food is going to be like ice cold.
Right. I've experienced that, yes. I will admit to that.
All right. So I wanted to talk a little bit about autonomy and machines and software that thinks for itself. I mean, do you have any AI or machine learning built into Autodesk products?
No, we don't.
Not really? No. It doesn't learn from your people as they use it?
It's certainly something that we're looking at.
Okay.
But it's not something that's in the software today. Yeah.
Okay. What about you? Have you seen anything really sexy in that space?
I have an interview with somebody tomorrow, and I'm going to blank out on the name, but the concept is, you know, that they are AI plus the tracking of data that we were talking about a minute ago, where they are pulling in data based on when you watch. They're like tracking, you know, we do tracking of eyeballs with websites, and you know exactly what part of your website is capturing attention. Same thing with video and on-demand content. They're doing some of that, so it's all built into an AI system. So that's interesting.
Oh, that's cool. All right, so I work with StoryTech, and of course part of our project every year is to do this trend casting. So we always come up with 5 trends, and we've talked about 4 of them so far. I think the 5th trend, it will be close to your heart, and that is the idea of the ascendancy of software. I mean, NAB really used to be a show about the iron, right? And back in the day, when I did my first NAB.
Well, you were telling me earlier, you've done how many?
This is my 24th consecutive NAB, yes. So back in the day, the software guys were like segregated to the sands. We weren't even allowed in the same convention center with the hardware. So I wonder if you could talk about how software has improved in profile, how it's a more important piece than it used to be. I'm sure you've seen that over the years.
We've seen it grow in importance. I mean, I think you're seeing software in production being more important. It's a big cost saver to be able to just do things in CG, do green screen filming, that kind of thing. Productions they save a lot of money doing it that way. So I think it's helped with adoption. Also, from our perspective, as technology's evolved, right, and people have simple things like better internet connections, right? It enables remote collaboration, and people can work on software remotely, so it becomes easier to kind of have distributed teams and that kind of thing, and there's software that kind of powers all of that.
And what does that get you? I mean, what's the big advantage?
You can do things faster, you can do them cheaper.
Faster and cheaper sounds
That's
good.
kind of the name of the game for production, right? Faster
Better
and cheaper.
too? Can you get the magic triangle? Faster, better, and cheaper?
You can. You
Wow,
absolutely can.
that's pretty awesome. All right. So have you guys seen any nifty gadgets or gizmos or toys that you want to have? I mean, I mentioned the Switcher Studio.
Yeah.
Which is pretty cool.
Actually, my partner over here, David Foster, he came up, what was the name of that tripod, that monopod?
I can't remember.
Okay, so he found a tripod. We're obviously not remembering the name of it, but a monopod, but with feet. So we use in our mobile productions a monopod that has little tiny feet so that it can stand on its own, but it's been a little unstable. You're like always worried, okay, is this going to fall over on me, right? Yeah. And he found one on the show floor. It's actually in Central Hall, just over here, and it's actually bigger. It's a little bulkier, but it's really stable. So it has these Liebeck.
So little quick iPhone action. What? Little quick iPhone.
Yeah, exactly. LIBEC. So if you're kind of on the go and doing some productions from that perspective, it'll hold quite a bit. So that was really cool for us.
You know, I have to say that one of the reasons that I've gotten into this space is that I have a really bad gadget addiction. Like I love to have stuff that fits onto other stuff and clips onto other stuff. Like it's like if I could be production Barbie, that's like, you know, with all my little accessories, that would be so cool.
Well, we crown you production Barbie.
Production Barbie. Here I am. Ta-da! All right. Now we're gonna put on we're gonna have our crystal ball, and we're gonna look into the future. I'd love to hear some thoughts about where you think the future is in the areas that you work.
Oh, okay.
I'll let you
Who wants to go first?
Duke it out.
Well, okay, so I think, you know, for me, and you see it a lot this year, which is the integration and the compression of the traditional media and more of the new media space. And
when are we going to stop calling it new media? I mean, it's been new media for like 20 years
Every time I've said that today, I'm like, I really shouldn't be calling it new media. What is it now, right? But it is really a convergence of that, and I think the more we work together, which things like NDI are helping us really kind of integrate with multiple systems, and I think that's really key.
NDI. When you use a term or an acronym on my show, you have to explain it.
Fantastic. Okay, so NDI is a solution to allow you to connect cameras into your broadcaster, like a live stream box or a TriCaster, over Ethernet, over a network, as opposed to running cables from way back there over here, SDI, HDMI.
Yeah, I'm all over running cables. Yes. Forget that noise.
So it gives you, and it's really low latency, so it really allows you to have a better solution, a more efficient solution, I should say. And I think that's really where the future is efficiency in our systems and our broadcast solutions. Really fine-tuning. Things are becoming smaller, they're becoming cheaper, but it's not about spending less, it's about efficiency with your finances of where you're spending your money so that you can increase spend on something else, right? And so you don't have to spend $1 million on a TV studio.
Okay. Colin, where are you going with Autodesk?
So I think you mentioned the cloud earlier, and I think that is kind of where things are going from our perspective. We're moving a lot of our business to the cloud in terms of subscription and that kind of thing. But our customers, they're, to create CG and VFX, you're creating massive amounts of data. Massive amounts of data.
Like how much data?
Try to give an example. I just got an example of this the other night. So a friend of ours from Atomic Fiction who worked on the movie Ghost in the Shell talked about one scene that they did. In this one scene, the CG in it was something like 10 terabytes of data in this one scene. It was
10 terabytes
in one 15-second scene, and that's a 2-hour movie, right? So and you have all that data, you then have to render it and process it. So it's got to be sent to the cloud in most cases to do that. And some big studios have render farms and that kind of thing. We're seeing rendering and processing on the cloud being more and more as kind of a part of what studios have to do in order to meet deadlines and get things done. So kind of all about the cloud from our perspective.
I just love the collaboration we have going on, not only up here, but with you guys and your counterparts in the audience.
She threw a lifeline, so I thought I'd do the same thing.
It's the end of the day. Yeah, totally. It's like, can I get a lifeline here? All right, well, I am really excited about the things that I've seen here on the show floor, and I love talking to you guys today. So thank you so much, Colin and Luria, for being with us here on NAB Show Live. And we'll be back tomorrow broadcasting bright and early. Thanks so much for watching.